Mike, turn your games down.
Hi, we're doing a mini episode of Games My Mom Found. I am Mike Albertin, and who's the king of dragons with me tonight?
Hello! It's Michael Hughes.
Welcome back, and we are bringing you another beat 'em up episode on that from that Capcom collection slowly over the course of years.
Yeah, it's been a minute since we did the last one. I don't remember what it was. Was it Captain Commando was the last one that was released?
Yep. That was the last one we did too, yeah.
Yeah, that was a while.
So we are here this time to talk about the King of Dragons, which came out, well, the arcade version came out in 1991.
Jesus.
And the Snes version came out in 94, and that's what I used to play as a kid.
I just feel like I just aged 20 years just saying, hearing you say that.
So I know we played this actually twice, but we'll get into that. But what I want to say is I actually played this game back in the day. A good friend of mine who's been on the show many times, Red Fox, he had a copy of this game. He's the one that introduced me to it on Super Nintendo, and we played it a bunch, but we were never, like, we would always lose. And then it turns out I found out this game is way longer than I thought it was.
A little bit.
So there's that too, but it's one of those games that's always been on my mind. It's something that I would think about from time to time. Even back when I was making collages, which I should post pictures someday, I was making a bunch of like video game collages. I made a collage of this game because this game always meant something to me. It was just one of those games I'm like, I really like King of Dragons. I can't beat it because it's too damn hard, but I really like it.
Yeah, just one of those games from your childhood that kind of lives in your brain rent free. Like Captain America.
Because it was something that we used to do. He didn't live that. He lived about a mile from me at the time, so I'd walk over to his house, and he had a few, there were some Snes games, and 64 is already out at this time, but we were playing, we played a bunch of this and other games that we could actually beat. Like Final Fight 2 we could beat. Couldn't beat this, though. This game was fucking impossible at the time.
I think the first time I played this was on the Capcom Classics collection on the original Xbox. That had a bunch of their old games. And I remember dabbling with it, but I don't think I really gave it a fair shot because I played it by myself, and it's definitely one of those beat-em-ups that's way more fun with someone else.
Yeah, all beat-em-ups are. This was developed by Capcom. I forgot to say that.
Yeah. We said Capcom like 4 times already in this episode, so I think people figured it out.
Probably. No, beat-em-ups are always better with 2 people. They just need that.
Unless they have, that setting where you can hit each other.
Okay, yeah, that's annoying. I hate that in games. Beat-em-ups.
Yeah, why would you include that?
Quarters. This game didn't feel as quarter munchy until the end, though.
Yeah.
Then it felt quarter munchy. It felt very fair for a good, 3/4 of the game, I think. And that was a nice surprise, because when you play a lot of arcade games, you can feel where they just want to steal your hoarders.
We died a bit early on because we were still kind of getting a feel for the game, and we kept cycling the classes to give everyone a fair shot, and some of them are definitely not built for the early game unless you know what you're doing. It's like the elf and the mage both have really low health compared to everyone else.
But that's one thing that's interesting. This game has 5 characters to choose from. You have an elf, the mage, a fighter, a cleric, which is essentially a paladin, and the
dwarf.
The dwarf. I was blanking. I know it's not a thief.
The fighter and the dwarf are so similar.
Yeah, but it worked. But they actually, because I did play through all the characters too, they all played a little different. Mm-hmm. And it was kind of nice. You could feel the differences with all the different characters. It was, that was one thing that drew me as a kid. I also always played as the elf as a kid, which I don't recommend. When you're trying to play this game with, you only have so many lives in the Super Nintendo version, you only have so many credits the game gives you, and you're trying to beat the game, I don't recommend the elf.
Mm-hmm.
The elf felt like hard mode.
Yeah, because it's not strong, and like I said earlier, it's got less health, but they have range to make up for it. But a lot of enemies can attack you from across the screen anyway, so range.
And the enemies have farther range than you have. Yeah. Which I noticed pretty quickly. I'm like, well, that's not friendly.
Mm-hmm.
But it was still, it was a lot of fun. One thing about this game that makes it stand out from other beat-em-ups is, one, you level up, which you do in some other beat-em-ups, but you also get new equipment as the game progresses. So as you beat bosses, as you progress through levels, you get chests that then give you, new swords, new shields, or in the case of the elf, in case of the elf, for example, you get a new bow and a new arrow. You don't get any defense.
Yeah. And the mage, which is who I played through the first time, keeps getting new staves that do different spells, and it's super cool.
It's really cool. I'm happy to say that, for a beat 'em up, it's still fun.
Oh yeah, big time.
And it still looks good. Like that's one thing that is such, while sprite work, is that sprite work just looks good still after all this time.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at some polygon art and it ain't so good.
Yeah, right. Like Final Fantasy VII still looks like a train wreck.
Uh-huh. Well, was it beautiful when it came out?
Uh-huh.
But our eyes are no longer. But sprite work always works. I mean, everything in this game is clean. The characters are, look good. The weapons you have change enough that you get different swords. You get different, or in your case, different staff that have different spells. Like you get things that change enough to keep you very engaged.
Yeah. Plus, it's Capcom. They know what they're doing when it comes to sprites. Everything's nice and bright and vibrant and colorful.
Yeah, I mean the enemies look good too, and I mean of course they reuse enemies because it's it's a game. That's what they do, especially Capcom.
Mm-hmm.
But it didn't bother me. Like there was enough of variation from orcs to skeletons to dragons that there was enough stuff happening that I never felt like we're seeing the same enemy too many times. It didn't feel like here's the same thing with a different color.
Yeah, so they definitely reuse them, but they kind of space them out. Apparently, the characters all have names, according to this wiki. Got Ravel the Elf, Ravel. Ravel?
I got nothing.
Legger the Wizard, Derek the Fighter, Aldo the Cleric, and Vargas the Dwarf.
All those names are cool except Derek. I just don't get it. Like, we got Vargas over here, and we got Derek. Like, what? Like, you're going with unique names, and then you just throw, they're like, we need another name. What do you got? Well, my name's Derek. There you go, Derek. There we go.
You're the fighter, Derek.
But I guess there's a story to this game, but we didn't fucking care because it's a beat 'em up. No one cares about the story.
I think I even joked about it. You don't see text on screen until the end of level 4 when a character's like, "Oh, go do this now."
Mm-hmm. And I'm like, why? I've already been doing stuff.
You're already a quarter of the way through the game, and now you're going to throw in text.
It seemed kind of weird to have that. Like, you don't need text.
Yeah.
It's not why you're playing this game.
Right.
I mean, it's a game that I could never see myself playing single player. Like I have over the years, I played with emulation. That's not I bring that up a lot, but I've never messed with this game in emulation really because it was a game I could never see myself wanting to play solo.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not the same. It's not beat 'em ups. Part of the fun of beat 'em up is having two people with you, and playing the game, whether it be on the couch or whether it be across states. In this case, that's the fun of it.
Yeah, that's what's so great about this collection. Just being able to do all these co-op.
And this game is a lot longer than I ever thought. So I played through this game as a kid many times. We'd get to I think World 10 sometimes, and then that's the farthest we ever got. And I thought, okay, we're making good progress. We got to be near the end. There's 16 stages in this game. This is a lot, and this is a very hard Super Nintendo game. I had played it many times over the years, and me and Rich could never get through it.
Mm-hmm.
He never beat it. Even he played it himself. He played it with his nephews. He never finished this game on the Super Nintendo because you just run out of credits.
Oh yeah, I bet. Those ports, even if they're faithful, they usually have to make some kind of concessions when it comes to lives, and that hurts it big time for a game that's designed to take all your money.
Well, you got to be really good. I mean, there's YouTube play. I'm watching the YouTube playthrough as we speak, where the guy's beating it, the way you're supposed to. People can. It's just when I play beat 'em ups, I don't dodge a lot. I just go kill things.
Yeah.
That's how I play them. I mean, this game just has a jump and attack, so it's, your simple combo, your simple button combinations, that's it. I mean, you do get herbs throughout the game from different chests or things that will then be heal you if you die, essentially.
Yeah.
And
the main pickup is just different kinds of money that add to your experience, and when you get hit the different thresholds, you level up, which might add more health, maybe?
It does add more health. It adds more health, adds more defense, I think. Because I felt like I was taking less damage at certain times, and then there were other times where I felt like I just got murdered by certain bosses.
Oh, yeah.
But there were a few times it felt unfair, but it's unique enough that there's lots of different things happening. The enemies we kind of mentioned earlier, have changed a lot. And I like that. You have lizard enemies at different points later in this game. You just have lots that you made a comment about. Look like Lizafos from Ocarina. And speaking of Ocarina, I do have to mention there's one part that made us both laugh where you see a giant tree, and the first thing he says, "Oh, thanks, buddy." I'm just like,
"Yeah, thanks, buddy."
Because you said it before I read it. I was like, what? Why do you say that? I'm like, oh, it's a text in the game.
The wise old trees. Thanks, buddy.
It's just the weirdest thing. This is not when I think of a wise tree, this is not what a wise tree should be saying. Thanks, buddy. Hey, thanks, yeah. Good job. You killed the giant spiders that were inside in my tree trunk or in my branches.
Thank you, great hero. Thanks, buddy.
That would have been better. Thanks, buddy.
Love it.
Whenever I see giant spiders, this might be a me thing, but Hobbit is what comes to mind.
Definitely not a me thing.
Okay. No, I didn't think so. In Hobbit, I'm pretty sure they deal with spiders at one point, so that's what sticks with me for some weird ass reason. I got nothing.
That boss fight was interesting because we didn't realize that it was multiple spiders. Because they kind of drop down from the top of the screen and spit acid at you or whatever, then shoot back up. So it was until you beat it, and then like 7 or 8 of them fall out of the tree.
I was confused.
Because
also one changes shape. There's a different sprite. I'm like, what's a different sprite?
Mm-hmm.
They can grab you too and pull you in the tree and hurt you a lot.
Oh, that's fun.
And this game can it's like when enemies grab you or if you get frozen in ice spells, but there's tons of ice traps in this game. You have to hit buttons to get out of it, or you'll just die.
Yeah, it just continuously drains your health.
Yeah.
Yeah, I noted the first playthrough. Every time there's an ice trap, you were the one that triggered it.
I was hitting all the chests. I just get that style of playing. I was just rushing through and opening everything and getting all the gold and trying to level up. I mean, you level up decently in this game, and like if you do switch characters, they do level up a bit when you're not playing them, but they don't get as much experience. You could tell.
Yeah. But they weren't like your upgrades, whatever level your upgrade is, that your character still carry that across.
They thankfully have that. So like you can play the game. I mean, the game encourages you to play as one character the whole way through, but it doesn't really punish you that bad for switching around.
Yeah, that's why I'd recommend doing it anyway, because you can see the progression you're getting as you get the new items. Like that.
And it looks cool. You can actually see it. You see the different swords that they're holding. You see the different axes the dwarf has. Like you can see a different effect, which I really appreciate when games do that. Like I remember Summoner for PS2. That's a weird game to mention.
Yeah.
Like I remember when I first played that game, you could see when you changed armor, he would look different. I was like, wow, that's cool. It's not a good game, but it's also on PC, which I did not know.
Yeah, that's always important in games. Like, especially RPGs. I know it was harder to do back then, but something like, what's that game? Running Out of Stories on PS2. I remember getting new armor and I equipped it and go back to the battle screen or whatever, and it's actually different. It's like, oh, it's so cool.
It definitely makes an impact on a game.
Yeah.
Another weird thing that this game has is it tried to copy Golden Axe. You have random, like, not even dwarves, but random, like, people that come out that look like they're from Golden Axe with little packs, and you hit them and they drop stuff for you.
Oh, yeah, the thieves.
Yeah.
If you let money sit too long on the screen, they'll come out and steal it.
Oh, I didn't realize that's what brought them out. I didn't pay enough attention, I guess. I was too busy killing things.
But yeah, they look 1-to-1 of the one from Golden Axe.
Mm-hmm. Which I thought was hilarious. I liked it. And there's also spells you get throughout the game, like as you break chests or if one of your characters dies, a little orb will pop up that will do a spell when you break it, and you can push it along the stage in order to use it when you want to use it. Or if your friend is playing as the elf, he'll just shoot it randomly because he's shooting everything. So that happens too.
Yeah, that does happen. Can confirm.
I did find it amusing how we beat this game once, and then normally when we do this, we beat it when we record, and we immediately started up again and beat it a second time.
Yeah. It's like, I kind of want to try one of the other characters. Mike's like, yeah, we could play a little bit, see, just stop at some point, and then we ended up playing the whole game again. Because it's like less than an hour. I think we started just after 9 o'clock, and then by 10, we were already done.
Yeah. It's not, but it's long enough. It's like a 45-minute, game. And that's enough for an arcade beat 'em up. You don't need more than that.
It somehow manages to feel too long and too short at the same time. It's like you said, it's 16 levels, and it feels like it takes forever, but it's still only 45 minutes.
It feels like it takes forever to play the Snes, and you're like watching your credits go away, but that's
different. Yeah.
Or if you're pumping in all the quarters like we would have been.
Yeah, this collection's been phenomenal.
Mm-hmm. I mean, the game has like I said before, I kind of made comment, there is some kind of story, but like who the fuck cares? Like there's something that I guess you're supposed to be doing, but I had all I knew is there was a dragon in somewhere involved in this game, and that was all I knew.
Yeah.
I mean, they're like, "Oh, save the prince." I'm like, "Who cares? Let's go kill the next enemy." And I think this game also had a good boss variation. Like they did a decent job. Like there were times where they would reuse bosses, but it felt different enough.
Yeah, because you fight the wyvern or the wyvern early on, and then there's a frost one. It's like a level 3, you fight the first one, the level 14, you fight the frost variation, which is a recolor, but it also likes to freeze you like an asswipe.
Yeah, but it was okay. Like, you have dragon riders, which I think they get thrown across, but where they're on like wyvern, they're on like a dragon with no wings, or so that's not really a dragon, but yeah, that type of thing. And like, you fight them a couple different times, but like, you fight one guy on a dragon, next you fight a guy that jumps off his dragon, and like they switch it. And then when you fight two of them, like they switched it up a bit where it didn't feel boring to me. Like, I wasn't bored with this game.
Yeah, I agree.
Nice. And I wasn't like annoyed with the recolorings and stuff like that of the bosses. Like, they were still fun to go fight. The first boss is a giant orc that shoots. I remembered this guy from when I was a kid, and he shoots chain things at you. I'm like, he's still cool, for all these years.
Man, we shredded him that second time. I remember him giving us a little trouble the first time through, and then second time we were playing the dwarf and the fighter, and we just destroyed him in like 30 seconds.
You could see the difference in the power when you had the melee characters.
Mm-hmm.
Also, if you play this game solo, you level up a lot faster than you do if you play it with two people.
That makes sense. So we tried to split up the gold as we played.
But yeah, we just kill everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Taking it all for yourself, you probably would level up faster.
Yeah. There's also less enemies, I think, too. I think this game scaled enemies with you. Which I like when games do that. And this game's up to 3 players, too, for the arcade version.
Oh, man, that'd get crazy with 3 people.
Yeah.
It's not like Dungeons & Dragons where I was playing the wizard and kept stopping the action to shoot off spells every now and then.
No, the action never stopped in this game. Most of the bosses were fun. One boss that I hated that we have to mention is the Wraith, which is a bunch of little guys in cloaks that just circle you, and it was stupid.
Yeah, there's like 10 little ghost things that are flying around in a circle, and they kind of move back and forth across the screen. They throw little scythes at you every now and then, and they're a pain to hit.
Yeah, it bothered me a lot.
And they had way too much health.
Yes. And again, you can start seeing where it's like, we want your quarters.
Mm-hmm.
I also think from watching this video that they had more health because there were 2 of us too. So.
Oh, yeah, that makes sense.
Which again is fair. I mean, you do have more players. You want to make the game, more challenging. So they, when you get more quarters, but yes. So there is that too. But that was the only real boss fight I feel like that irritated me. Like, most of them I really enjoyed.
Yeah,
like,
there's some that were kind of annoying that you have to like jump to attack, like the spiders and the wyvern and stuff, and then the final boss. But other than that, yeah, they're pretty alright.
It didn't bother me. You fight a few cyclopses, and I thought those look cool. They do reuse that a few times.
Yeah.
But that was fine. And I know at some point we go to a fort and we were supposed to rescue somebody, and I'm like, okay, I didn't even know, didn't care. But that's the farthest I ever got. That was stage 13. That was the farthest I ever got as a kid, because I remember that gold guy. Me and Rich got to that gold guy, and he kicked our ass, and then we never got.
The Great Draconian? That guy's cool.
That's a very cool sprite.
It's big.
Whenever I see old sprites like this,
dragon. Oh, go ahead.
All I ever think of is how much I wish I did perler beads, because I just want to make stuff. I just want to make sprites in the perler beads. Oh man, that'd take forever. That sprite's huge. Yeah, I mean, I have 2 perler beads next to me. I have the Hollow Knight that Alyssa made for me, who's been on the show before, and I have a Kurama near me somewhere too. But that's it.
You could have made the biker girls from Battle Circuit.
But I always think about it, like I want to make, and this was one of those sprites. Like, this would be cool in a perler bead. Nobody would know what the fuck you made, but it'd be cool.
Right. Yeah, Capcom knows their sprite work, especially back then.
Yeah, it's all so good in this game. But what were you gonna say about the boss before I interrupted you?
Just the Great Draconian is like a big bipedal dragon that's covered in armor. He's got a big spike shield and a giant sword. He's super cool looking. And
you can block in this game, apparently, though, by the way.
Yeah, I read that the dwarf can block. Probably anyone with the shield.
Yeah, I don't know how the hell you block, though. Unless you just stand still or something, or hit back, maybe. I mean, it could be back.
You think I'd face you the other direction, though?
Oh, I don't know, then. I blocked. I know I blocked by accident, but I was usually always hitting everything, so there was that problem, too. The sword didn't stop slashing, usually, in this game, for me.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right. Fighter, cleric, and dwarf can also use their shields to block certain attacks by pulling back right before the impact.
Okay. Huh. That's cool. I've never liked that in fighting games where it's more common. I like when blocks a button. I don't like back, and I really don't like where you don't do anything, you block. Like, I think Mortal Kombat did that. It's
different in fighting games because it's just 2 people always facing each other, so back just kind of feels instinctive. Something like this, like I said, if you're pulling back at the wrong time, you're going to just face the other direction, then you're taking the attack in the back anyway.
Yeah, so you're not doing what you wanted to do.
Yeah, but it would make sense to have the extra button when not all the classes could block.
Oh, good point. I didn't think about that, but that makes perfect sense.
Yeah, like you said, though, if you maybe just let go of the control stick and stand still, that would kind of work. I don't know. We did fine without blocking, so.
That's because we had unlimited credits because we were playing this on the beat 'em up collection. Which is the way to play beat 'em up, when you don't have to worry about credits, you don't care, you're just playing the game, you're killing things. Like speaking of sprites, one of the enemies that I have to mention is you have werewolf with crossbows that are just fucking cool looking.
I feel like a lot of this game was just, holy crap, look at this weird enemy.
Yeah, it was a very cool game. And I mean, we played other beat 'em ups. We normally don't play twice, and we played this twice, one after another. I think we might have done that with Armor Warriors or Battlestar 2.
I think so. I think Armor Warriors absolutely did.
We were just like, okay, let's go again, because like I had wanted to play all the characters, and you picked the mage, and you never left the mage.
Yeah. I was trying to cycle because I got in late because I didn't realize how to push start one for the character select, and by the time I was looking through the classes, I ran out of time because, of course, it's an arcade game. They're going to time you on everything. So I got locked into the cleric early on, and then I switched to the mage when I could, and it was like, oh, this is fun.
And like at one point, you got electric powers from your staff.
Yeah. So I think I started at a level 4 staff, and he was just shooting these little orbs, energy orbs in front of him. And then I started getting different variations of like a flamethrower spell. You just shot fire, they get further as you level up. And then the level 8 one, which is the max, is just a lightning bolt shoots out of the staff and is like, oh, you fuckers are dead now.
It was
super rad.
Because you had mentioned, like, come on, you're like, lightning bolt, come on, give me lightning bolt. And then the game did a couple levels later.
Yeah, I think there were 3 different fires. It was like red, blue, and then green. I'm like, come on, dude, mix it up. And yeah, they've got lightning.
But it's a cool game. It's unique enough as a beat 'em up. Like we played a lot of beat 'em ups, and I think it was a pretty unique one still.
Big time, yeah. It's like we kind of talked about it, and I think we're thinking about doing a whole episode on the actual collection as a whole, but it is cool to see how different all these beat 'em ups are that came out around the same time. It's like Capcom had ideas.
I don't know if I ever saw this in an arcade or ever played it. I don't think so, because 91 I would have been like 6 or 5. I was born in 87. So I probably never saw this in an arcade. Yeah. I remember I went to arcades a lot. I loved going to arcades. I loved watching people play games at arcades. Yeah. I only had a few quarters, so I'd be like, I gotta save my quarters.
Especially when they were good at them.
Yeah, that was always fun. They didn't like it when you watch them. I remember that. People get mad at me, like, I just want to watch you play. Like, right. What are you doing, this little kid? Get out of here.
The Great Draconian has a whip sword, too, like Ivy from Soul Calibur.
Which is cool as hell. And way before Soul Calibur.
He can attack you from across the screen, but it's still cool.
And hey, Soul Calibur is not a Capcom game.
Yeah.
Namco. Which I forgot about until just now. I was thinking about, wait a second, like that. So, as the game progresses, you do have a couple wizards that you fight too. Like, there was one that we were trying to hit, and then we realized you can't, you just have to wait and let them just teleport around so you can actually smack them.
Yeah, that fight kind of sucks.
It did. And then that's when you fought, like, you're like, we're at the final boss, because you fight this giant dark wizard you're like level 13 at this point. I'm like, yeah, no, this is not, I know the end. This is not the end.
I think level 13 is just called the Dark Wizard, too. So I'm like, oh, man, this has a very final feel. Because you,
yeah, it does.
Go into the room, and there's chests everywhere where you can power up one last, quote-unquote, one last time. And he gives you this big speech, like, oh, I'm the big wizard. Like, wow, this feels really final. And no, you still got I
think it's like you're trying to save some kingdom or something randomly. And this is where you save the kingdom, and then you go back to what your real quest is. Because the whole time, I think you're hunting a dragon. Because you're looking for gold.
I'll be real, I read all the text boxes. I retained absolutely none of it.
It doesn't say it in the text box. I think that's just what the story actually is. It didn't really, I know at some point, when we, after chapter 4, we run into a guy that's like, hey, go help, go helps me, and then you do that, you save a princess or something at one point, and then you go to the fort, you fight the Dark Wizard, and I think, because it's right after the Dark Wizard, you then go to, a cave, then you start heading towards your dragon that you've been looking for this whole time. Plus, this game is called King of Dragons.
Yeah, that makes sense.
One thing that I've been I haven't mentioned yet, but I want to, is that this game has a world map, kind of. Even though you don't run around and nothing like that, when you go to stage, you see yourself travel across this world map as your little icon just moves. And I'm a sucker for that in Super Nintendo for some reason. Ghouls and Ghosts does it too, and I'm a sucker for it. I don't know why.
It's always good. They're the kind of maps that you'd want to print out and just hang on the wall, just as posters.
I mean, I did stuff like that at one point when I was fucking around with sprites all the time. when I was making the collages, I would take different images and just kind of like throw them together and then cut out sprite on Photoshop. I miss doing that. And then make stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The joys of working till close every night at a store that would get quiet and had access to Photoshop. That's where it came from. It was like, what else am I going to do for 2 hours while I wait for customers to come in? Let's play with Photoshop.
Yeah, why not?
But I don't work there anymore, so I can make that joke.
Right. I mean, as long as we're on the subject, just the world map, like, there is a decent variety in the levels settings, but they're just standard fantasy fare. Nothing really stood out. It's like you're in a castle, you're in the forest. Yeah, you are on the ship for the one part of the one level.
And there's like a ship in the background you can kind of see, too, which we weren't paying attention because we were too busy killing, but you can kind of see a ship sinking in the background.
Oh, that's neat. But yeah, it's nothing too exorbitant.
I liked it enough, though. But you're right. I mean, it's nothing like crazy.
Oh, yeah, it doesn't
like
detract from it in any way. Battle Circuit. That game's insane.
Or Captain Commando had you go through a freaking museum at one point, I think.
Yeah, that sounds right.
It's a weird ass game. This is a very just heavy fantasy game that just fit that style. The enemies fit what you'd want in a fantasy game. I mean, it feels like D&D without the D&D license.
Yeah, it's like Golden Axe if it played better.
You made somebody upset, I think, out there somewhere. And my cat meowed right when you said it, too.
Yeah, I heard that.
So, but people love Golden Axe. I don't know. I don't have enough history with it, or I've never even beaten them. I need to play them, though, someday.
It's fine. They just play super stiff.
Well, it's Sega Genesis, and Nintendo does what Sega don't.
Yeah, right.
I'm a Nintendo fan. I'm a Nintendo fanboy. I always will be.
Yep.
It's old Nintendo. I don't like Nintendo, but that's a different story. I'm against Nintendo. But then you finally progressed. I think you finally do get to the final boss because you go through a couple stages. You go through Underground Labyrinth, and I'm trying to think who the boss was for this. I think this is when you have to fight 2 Cyclopses. Yep, 2 Cyclopses. Where they reuse some of the sprites again.
Cyclops brothers, as it's in the wiki.
It was fine. Again, I mean, sometimes it didn't bother me in this game to have reused. It's just, I don't know, it didn't bother me at all. Have reused sprites.
A sprite I'm surprised they didn't reuse is the Royal Knights, where the one knight comes out and he kind of splits into 2 and you fight 2 at once, but I think that's the only time you see that enemy in the whole game.
And one of the Dragon Riders, he's like a regular guy without his helmet. You don't ever see him again either. So that was nice. The Draconian King thing is a 1 too, so that's nice. You know, they didn't reuse much they could have.
Yeah, I got another one that we'll talk about after when we talk about the credits. But we'll get there.
Okay. And then you have the final boss, which this stage I thought was cool too, because you finally go to like a volcano cave and there's no enemies. You just walk through a tunnel and just open tons of chests to get there. And I thought, and mimes too. And mimes jump on your ass and they bite your butt.
Mimics? Yeah.
Yes. Oh yeah, I said it wrong. Mimics. Yeah. That was cool. I was like, okay, this is funny. Like, this is stupid and funny, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, this game kind of rules.
And of course, and one boss, before I mentioned the final boss, you fight a Hydra in this game too, which you cut off its heads, but that was still cool.
Mm-hmm. It's got 3 different colored heads and 1 normal colored body that you can see in the background.
Mm-hmm. And then the final boss in this game is, of course, a dragon. You fight a giant red dragon that its body's in the background, like a claw and its head are coming down towards you, and that's what you have to hit. It's very cool. Yeah,
it's another one you gotta keep jumping to attack.
I don't know if I like this more than the Dungeons and Dragons one. I think the Dungeons and Dragons one was prettier because I think that game's newer, but I really like this one.
It definitely didn't feel as cheap as that game felt for a final boss. Man, just every few seconds we were dying in that thing.
We did die a lot in this too. This has a lot of one hit KOs if you get caught by them.
True. Yeah.
I mean, I'm watching the playthrough, and the guy just runs off to the corner, stays away from the head, and hits the hand, and doesn't get hurt at all. Like, because not the way we played. Our asses were jumping at the head, getting murdered.
Its main attack is breathing fire from the head, but
you just stand the corners and avoid the head, and you're fine. By the way,
makes sense. You can see the tail in the background kind of thwomp down on the ground, and it makes rocks fall, but it gives you like the shadow warning. Like,
that was gold that's falling.
Oh yeah.
I thought that was a cool touch, like the idea that this dragon is hoarding all this gold. I really like that.
Definitely high fantasy.
And I like that. I like high fantasy a lot. And this game has really weird font, we have to mention, because I know you had a hard time reading. You're like, what the fuck is the font? Is just like...
Oh, yeah. For the ending?
The font in general, like anytime you kill a boss, they have like this really fantasy font.
Well, it doesn't help that it likes vibrant cycles colors real quick.
Like, do you want Caesars? We got Caesars for you. Yeah, it's very much like that. Like,
It was the style in the 90s.
yeah. And then you were talking about the credits.
Yeah, well, real quick, you just reminded me that when you beat the final boss, it kind of gives you the text crawl of the rest of the story. And in the first sentence, they misspell heroes as H-E-R-O-S, which really made me laugh. But yeah, then it goes to the credits, and it's the dragon kind of like blowing away the credits, but these fairy sprites that you see nowhere else in the game come in and they like reveal the names, and then the dragon knocks them away. It's like, why go through that effort of making that sprite just for this? It makes me wonder if they were cut from the rest of the game somewhere.
It had to be. That's the only thing that makes sense to me, is that they were cut.
They're pretty detailed too, so yeah, they had to have been.
They were cut for sure. And then the end of the game is your whatever heroes you beat the game with are then standing on a cliff overlooking the city or something. And back in the day, what I did is I took that image, I found it with one character standing there, and I cut out the sprites of all the other characters in their final phases. I went and found YouTube videos of different people that beat it, or I would get images, and then I went and cut it out and put it all together.
Yeah, that's cool.
I have it somewhere. I need to go find it, because now I actually kind of want to take a picture of it, but
yeah, I want to see that
in the garage. But I went and did that. I went and cut out the sprites and I put them in there, because I didn't know about, at the time, I didn't know about the paid Spriters resource website where you can just get fucking sprites from every game you want, and they're just there. You just cut them out real nice and easy. I went and sit there and took a tool and cut this thing out piece by piece. It was not the way to do it, but I had time, so
that's got to still be around, right? Spriters resource.
Oh, I've looked it up many times. It's still there.
Yeah, I love
to go anywhere.
Going on there, look at the sprite sheets.
I used to download them because I was like, oh, I'm going to make this project, so I'm just going to put these on here, and I would cut out sprites. Like, I made some cool Mega Man X ones with the sprites cut out and X in the middle and stuff, and a bunch of cool stuff like that. This
is where I thought you were talking about the hard to read the text, because I mentioned the story crawl here at the end. It's like blue text on a blue sky background. It was a choice.
Yeah, it's hard to read, but again, nobody cares about the text. Nobody's reading this. Nobody's playing this to read it.
Play it because it's a fun ass game, though.
Yeah, it's a lot better than it had any right to be. Oh, and you fight Minotaurs too. We should mention that.
Oh yeah, they like gore you and fling you into the air.
But it's not a boring game at all, and that's what you need to beat them up. You need to beat them up to hold your attention and keep you engaged and have fun.
Yeah, for 45 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, and then it was enough for us to play it twice. So yeah, I mean that I give any beat 'em up credit that can make me want to play it immediately after beating it. I give you credit. Like, that's not something that, especially for me, that's not normal.
Yeah,
I'm more like, okay, I'm done. Let's move on.
Right.
Yeah, it's a cool game. So it would have been fun to play in arcades, I think, if I had unlimited quarters.
This would have been before D&D, so it's like because I noted when we were playing, I'm like, why didn't they ever make a sequel to this? Capcom loves their sequels, but once they got that D&D license, there's probably had some carryover between this and that.
Well, it makes sense. I mean, you have the D&D license that's more known than using your regular IP, and I think the 90s were a big time of more licensing. Like, we're less licensing because the pricing is ridiculous, and the fact that part of making the game is to keep re-releasing it and keep having it on new systems, and if you're dealing with licenses, you can't do that.
Yeah, definitely.
You get stuff like we see now, constantly stuff gets locked away.
Mm-hmm.
And with everything being so much digital, media now, like where people are buying games on Steam or this, Nintendo store or something of that nature, like part of your business model is we're going to re-release this in 5-10 years and sell it again. Like that's the idea. And if you have you have the problem with licensing, all of a sudden after 3 years, your item is gone. You can't get that license again.
Such a bummer.
There's so many good license games that came out for PS2 and 360 that are just gone right now. That thankfully there's other ways to play finally. Now the emulation's catching up, but yeah, it makes me sad when stuff like that just disappears and there's no good reason for it.
Yeah, like I was surprised to see that Disney Afternoon collection that Capcom put out a few years ago. Like that,
same.
A lot of hoops jumped through.
Like, I mean, random collections that I wish I would see. Like, if Microsoft actually buys Activision, if that ever actually happens, I would love to see a Spider-Man collection come out of all those Activision games. It's not going to happen. It's a pipe dream, but that would be cool.
Right, because like Web of Shadows and Shadow Dimensions have gone up in price lately.
I think they're like, I have them, but they're expensive as hell. Even Edge of Time, which is a bad game, is expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Which I really want to put on the show, but it's like I got to find people that already own them because you can't buy them digitally. So it's not like I'm like, oh, go pay $10 and they're on sale. Like, no, you'd have to have a disc or emulate. So,
yeah, that was one I never bought. Now I'll probably never play it.
Well, emulation's catching up with 360.
Oh yeah,
so
I've got the DS version. That's kind of the same thing, right?
Completely different game, but yes. Or any last things you want to say about King of Dragons?
I think so.
All right, we'll go to Shelf Stacker Box. And why don't you go first?
Oh, this is an easy shelf. I think I even said it like after we finished the first playthrough. I'm like, man, this is an easy shelf. And then we played the whole game again, so that's just a testament to that. Like I said before, it's kind of cool to play this game from this genre that's so cookie cutter. I mean, you can make a beat 'em up and just put your characters and beat a bunch of enemies, but it's so cool to see something do it differently with the leveling up and the different equipment and stuff. It gives you incentive to play the other characters even. Yeah,
it really did.
A lot
and
of
we
fun.
wanted to see their different weapons, so like that's something nice to see. Games don't always do it with us or with me.
Yeah, so easy shelf.
Okay. And I'll go next. I'm also going to put this on the shelf too. I had a great time. Like, again, as I said previously, I'll say it again. I played through this twice and I wanted to. Like, I beat it with the cleric. I was switching off characters, ended up sticking with the cleric, and he's a really cool ass hammer. And then I went through the fighter, and he's a cool ass sword. Like, it was just fun. It was just a really fun beat 'em up. And it's something I could see myself randomly, like, hey, why don't, get a friend over or something? Let's just play through a beat 'em up. Like, 45 minutes, unlimited credits, playing the PC version, put it on your TV. It's fun. So
No female characters, though. No female characters. Bit of a bummer.
that was kind of a bummer. But again, the 90s, I think we're a different time for that. Us boys were too cool to play as women. Like, that. Plus, I think the 90s was a very big time of, like, I remember in middle school being, like, one of the biggest insults everybody would say, oh, you're gay. Like, freaking idiots. Like, I'm so glad we're past that. So one of my friends from high school did that once. We were playing some online game a few years ago, and I'm like, what? Why? Like, why would you, like, that's not a joke. And we moved on from that time. Like, why are you making this comment? But yes, so I think that might have played a part in it, to why there were no female. I mean, again, I could be completely wrong, but I feel like that was a part. It has something to do with it.
Yeah, especially in 91. Like,
yeah, which also plays more in the fact the age was the 80s crisis and all that. So there plays a lot.
People are still reeling to find that Samus was a girl the whole game.
People were really upset about that, weren't they?
Probably.
So, all right, that's everything that I need to say. And if you want to hear other beat 'em ups that we did, there'll be links in the show notes to some of the other beat 'em ups that we've done on the show. So check that out. You'll see that. You also
got a few more.
We got more coming eventually. Slowly get through this Capcom collection.
We're trying to make it like less time between the next one than the last one was.
Over a year.
It's been well over a year, yeah.
That's what happened. Commando broke us. That's all. Game was.
Because I think we recorded that fall of the year before.
I held it for a long time because of Spooktober and just other stuff. Yeah. So yeah, go check that out. And if you can find everything on Podbean, so definitely go look in our Podbean, and you can then search everything on Podbean too. If you go to our website, you can just type in a game, movie, and see if we did it. And if we did it, you'll find it. It'll show up, which is cool. So I want to promote that. It's nothing to do with me. It's just something Podbean has in there. So hey, you can search our giant fucking catalog of over 450 other episodes of this podcast. I'm getting close to 500 though by the time of this recording, so getting there. But go to that giant catalog. If you want to support the show, we do a Patreon. For little as $1, you can vote in our Patreon polls. We have one each month. Go help, and it helps out the show. So go do that, please. We have a Discord. Please join our Discord free. You can talk with us and chat with us and make suggestions of what you want on the show. I want to give a shout out to my awesome intro and outro, courtesy of Helena at Hell Has Fury. You can follow her on TikTok. She's TikTok famous. And also give a shout out to my buddy Bill Tucker's own podcast, A Gamer Looks at 40. So definitely go check him out too. And please follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and on YouTube. I think that's everything I need to say. So we will see you guys next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.